wow. I'm a nervous speaker, and I'm going to say this before I start anything else, because I'm a fiddly person that dances a lot while I'm speaking. And yes, before I start my presentation, I would like to ask one thing, and I would quite like a very genuine answer. Is there anyone in this room that needs explanations for the term trans, non-binary, or cisgender? Because if there is someone that needs that, I would include it. If not, I would skip it, and then I'll be done quicker. No one? Lovely. Okay, perfect. Before I start this presentation, I would like to say a couple of words. I'm a white, able-bodied, educated cis woman, and it's not my desire to take away a space or a place for a trans person to talk about this issue themselves. I am very much aware of my own privilege, as well as my stand in this community and the LARP community as well. So my first action is to thank those that have helped me curate the information that was needed to bring this paper to you all. I am very thankful for all of the help that I have received, and I hope I'll do everyone proud. Whenever someone hears about live action roleplay, either very many or very few ideas pop into one's head. But the classic pictures that one usually thinks of are white, cis men in heavy armor on battlefields, looking ever so slightly grim. But like everything in the past couple of years, LARP has changed. It has opened up to a much bigger variety of people than it was originally anticipated. There is no true starting point to LARP when one looks at its history, since every child's game of make-believe could be considered LARP if one would like to argue so. But looking at LARP today, one can find a significant difference to the first couple of games in history. In today's presentation, I would like to touch upon a couple of different ways in which world building helps the LARP experience of trans people. Firstly, quickly reminding everyone what the terms are, which I'm not going to do. Then quickly moving into an explanation of what LARP actually is, and then introducing some LARP companies, and lastly seeing how these companies include trans players into their narrative, concluding with a study to look at how the overall experience of LARPers, of trans LARPers is. Okay, so we are skipping this whole word introduction, but one little thing I would like to say is that whenever I am talking about trans people, I'm adding a little bit of an asterisk to the end of the word. By that, trans turns into an umbrella term, which can also be, or which also includes non-binary people. So I don't want any slander of myself. Saying that I am not inclusive when it comes to non-binary. I've said this. Good. The next question that then can be posed is, what actually is LARP? We all know what these identities are, but it's important to think about what LARP actually is. The acronym LARP stands for Live Action Role Play, or playing, and describes a sort of gameplay that usually every human being is familiar with. Do you remember when you were little and used to play pretend? LARP is that. But when grown-ups started to tell us that we were too old, we just kind of went, why? Says popular LARP YouTuber and content creator Momo O'Brien in her video The Basics of LARP 2014. As one can see, LARP is actually just a fancy game of make-believe. As a lot of people used to play it in the playground, but just a little bit more elaborate. LARP has a very long tradition and history, but explaining that will take much more than my time frame. So essentially, LARP is a game in which adults can pretend to live in a different world for a specific period of time, either recreating a world that has already existed, for example the Edwardian times, or building up an entirely new world with its own laws and regulations. The LARP looked at for this presentation, were chosen to represent three classical categories of games that can be found in LARP culture: historical-ish LARP, high fantasy LARP, and real-life LARP. I'm calling it real-life LARP because it's set in a world that's very similar to ours. In this presentation, however, we will focus on a type of LARP that is called Nordic LARP, which essentially describes a game that focuses on gameplay and character play rather than battlefields and looting armor off of a fallen soldier right next to you. And these are just a couple of pictures of what that could look like. Before we look at the actual games, I would like to introduce 3 different LARP companies that I believe have found good ways to include trans people into their gameplay. The first was called Chopok LARP Studios and was most commonly known for their game called College Wizardry. You will sense a pattern with this particular type of LARP, various reasons. But since we'll be talking about another magical LARP in a bit, the choice fell to a game called Fairweather Manor. Other LARPs included a classical vampire LARP called Convention of Thorns, as well as a Peaky Blinder-inspired LARP. Chopok LARP Studios was a LARP design collective that worked with roleplay and alternative games realities, as stated on their website. But they have ceased all operations from the 5th of March 2019 onwards, meaning that this year's run of Fairweather Manor will not be happening. The game itself is described as a live-action roleplay event set in England during 1917, and during the event the participants leave their normal lives behind for 3 days and step into the lives of servants, nobles, artists and local guests at the Great House during the Edwardian period. It has its 5th and preliminary last final run in November 2018 with about 140 players coming to this event. Due to Chopok's LARP company's end and assuming the very high cost of running such a LARP, the event will not be happening this November, even though there's still the possibility to buy tickets, which Chopok has been criticized for very heavily in the past couple of weeks. Fairweather Manor took place in the Polish countryside in a castle called Mosna, which I'm sure I didn't pronounce right. I'm sure you do a much better job at this than I do. The next and maybe less known game company is, and the game that we're focusing on, is Conterra by Fieldless Production. This is an American game that sets place in the Python Castle in Springfield, Missouri. Fieldless Production describes themselves as the newest blockbuster LARP company to start in the Midwest of the USA. Fieldless is a combination of LARP, theatre and gaming events in the Midwest with exciting locations and immersive stories. But now more about Conterra. It is a huge, immersive, high fantasy game in which clans need to get by in their everyday life. Before attending the game, the players are able to do a test, seeing what clan they belong to. And of course, I had to find out what clan I am into, or what clan I'm in. I am in Dracosade, which are the Dragon Riders clan that live on a volcanic island. And I think that's pretty much the most badass I've ever been in my life. Enter the world of Conterra, where intrigue and old grudges come to clash. Have an adventure of a lifetime in a medieval world full of high fantasy. It's the slogan that the company uses to describe their own game. Other games by Fieldless Magic include Aminata, a steampunk game, and Bienspora, a Wizarding World-inspired game. You're sensing the pattern. And the last company and game that I would like to look at is Rogue Events Limited's Bothwell School of Witchcraft. Bothwell School of Witchcraft is a place where you can finally live out your dream of becoming a real-life student of magic. The stories and characters, props and scenery will bring our school to life and leave you with an unforgettable experience. Bothwell is most definitely the biggest and most popular LARP by Rogue Events Limited, maybe even the most popular Nordic LARP in Central Europe due to their online presence and everyone's wish to be a part of the Harry Potter universe, even if that's only for a couple of days. I know I will. Rogue Events Limited compare their events to a murder mystery game, stating that you'll be given a role to play and a story will unfold around you where you have to interact with other characters. It is just like being in a movie or video game. This description works really well for all 3 games given. In particular, considering that virtually everyone has played an immersive video game, or at least has watched some Let's Play video at 3 AM in a school night. Other games by Rogue Limited are Murder on the 1016, a murder mystery game on a train, which is amazing. Survival Rising, a post-zombie apocalyptic game, and Aces on the Characters, which is a classic spy game. My Buffalo House is Fortis, by the way, which is the House of Boyswick. And the members of Boyswick House are chosen for their bravery, loyalty, passion, and adventurous spirit. They are fiercely dedicated and will go to great length to defend their friends. Essentially, saying I'm a mix of a Slytherin and a Gryffindor, but we also all know that already. So the question that still stands is, in how far does the LARP's world building influence or affect trans players? Now that we have heard of the different companies that organize these games, the question as to how far the LARP's world building actually influences or affects trans players still stands. And the first important thing when looking at this is to look at the possibilities that are given in LARP as well as everyday life to include and welcome trans people. The first and maybe most obvious point when it comes to this is obviously opening up out of the heteronormative and cisnormativity by diversifying culture within LARP and its world building as well as in real life. Because who is to say that LARP isn't real life? This can be achieved by giving diverse players the opportunity to recreate their reality in LARP or creating safe spaces for all people to enjoy themselves. This creation of safe spaces is, however, not exclusive to this one group. LARP and its players are diverse and need to stay diverse at all times. They need to be given space and the attention that they need, meaning that a focus on minority in games, including gender, sexuality, and ethnicity, is key here. This can be further supported by excluding players that have a reputation for not keeping up with set rules that focus on the inclusion of minorities of all kinds, going back to our battlefield white soldiers. And now I would like to look at the 3 games I've already introduced and how they actually do it. Chocolate Studios chose to walk an easy path when they talk about gender aspects in their game. The first thing that should be said about gender roles at Fair Weather Men in 1917 is that it's a conscious choice to do things the way we do. Where player gender is unimportant, but character gender is very important. We could have done a LARP where character gender had to match the player gender, but we saw no need for that, as we felt it would limit more than it would enable. The inclusion of trans people is not as obvious as it is with other productions or companies, but at the end of the day, that's exactly what they're doing. They do not explicitly mention trans players or even the difficulty of the issue openly, but they do not wish to exclude anyone from the game. In consideration that this game takes place in 1917, it is maybe more acceptable that Chocolate Studios have not created a direct way to play a non-binary character, since they would have been unable to come out at the time. This, however, does not mean that the player is not able to include this aspect into their character when writing their person, since non-binary people have quite obviously existed at the time. When looking at Fieldbus Productions' Contera's way to include trans people into their lore, it's firstly to be noted that this is a high fantasy game. Nobody knows if the Fays and Orcs and Dragon Riders and Warriors and Seafarers or the Believers, which are the main races of the clans, subscribe to the patriarchal cis-normative system that this society has created. This, of course, opens up possibilities for character creation so much more than the English Edwardian value system of Fair Weather Man. In their design document, Fieldbus states, "Our LARP is dedicated to providing harassment-free experience for everyone, regardless of their gender identity and expression, age, sexual orientation, disability, physical appearance, body size, race, ethnicity, religion or lack thereof, and technological choices. We do not tolerate harassment of participants in any form, which goes back to the general inclusion of trans people into gameplay culture, rather than explicitly saying how trans characters can be written. They go further by saying that harassment includes offensive verbal or written comments related to gender, gender identity, expression, and etc. Which is on this slide. And etc. And with that, producing a safe space for all sorts of diverse and intersectional players. This creates a safe ground for all players, as well as a naturally inclusive nature. Fieldbus even goes so far as to take action in and out of game to those that do not stick to these rules. Bothwell School of Witchcraft uses actual world building in order to include their trans players into their game. They briefly talk about the issue when looking at the costume requirements section in which they state, Bothwell School of Witchcraft does not have the same hang-ups about gender as the mundane world, and therefore, while a uniform exists, it is gender non-specific, and in my head, it's the voice of Professor McGonagall reading this, and it makes it even better to be quite honest. By using this quite simple sentence, it is clear that all people and all genders are welcome at the game. Using this aspect from their world building, again, creates an inclusive atmosphere, as well as the possibility for creative freedom of all players, since hereby every character present at the game will be able to dress accordingly to how they wish to dress. This sense of dressing is easily expanded to including all gender identities, meaning that the inclusion of women wearing trousers instead of skirts came first, but then led to a trans-inclusive world building. Good. Now that we have kind of figured out how world building is being used to create an open and positive gameplay for all players, we can also look at the results in real life, especially considering the following 5 questions. How often do you LARP roleplay gaming, LARP RPG, roleplay gaming, D&D, etc. We're going to hear about this in a second. Or cosplay. Has LARP influenced how you see yourself? Do you believe that LARP has influenced your gender identity? In how far has LARP helped you overcome issues you might have had with your gender identity? And finally, do you believe that LARP has changed your life in that aspect? In this survey, 28 assumably trans people have taken their time to answer these questions via the Google Docs survey function. I'm saying assumably trans people because I put this on Twitter, and I don't have control over who does my surveys, but it has been shared by a couple of people throughout the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to say that assumably they were trans, but of course I can't promise this. And I don't know enough LARPers in Germany to have had them figure this out. Good. Looking at the first question, how often do you LARP, roleplay game or cosplay? We have often, it's a part of my everyday life, with 46.4%, which is 13 people. Rarely, I do it occasionally, or used to do it, which is 42.9%. Which is 12 people, and those together already make up 25 people. So we have 25 people that quite regularly LARP. Never, as you can see, there's no one that never LARPs, so that makes a lot of sense, because I asked LARP players to answer this, and yeah, that would just be nonsensical. But I wanted to add it anyway, because it looks nice that no one ever LARPs. Not yet, but I've been thinking about it a lot, which is 7.1% and 2 people, and one person answering. I just started, I've done about twice in the last few months, which is 3.6%. The next question then posed is, has LARP changed how you see yourself? And 67.9%, just 19 people have answered yes, simply yes. 25%, which is 7 people, have answered no, and 1 person answered not that I know of, which again is 3.6%. I'm going to say 3.6% a lot in the next couple of slides. And 1 person make it easier to see myself through my own eyes instead of someone else's eyes, which I think is very interesting because it opens up perspective on yourself. The next question is, do you believe that LARP has influenced your gender identity? Which is 40.7%, which is 11 people saying, no, I knew who I was before I started LARPing, and 59.3%, which is 16 people saying, yes, it has strengthened who I am. You might wonder why no one used the third option. Usually these people are very happy to tell me their stories. There was a problem apparently with this survey function, and it just didn't add my third answer option, so no one was able to answer it, which is really annoying. And I only realized that yesterday evening when looking at these slides again, because we only have 27 answers as well. And I'm not going to be angry about this again. The fourth question that is being posed is, in how far has LARP helped you overcome issues that you might have had with your gender identity? 32.1%, which is 9 people, said it hasn't, and 39.3%, which is 11 people, said it has. We furthermore have 8 personal answers that I would just like to show you and read out to you, because I think they really carry the message that I'm trying to convey here. It definitely has. I was always shy and depressed, and my anxiety got me so seriously, I was thinking of drastic measures to escape it. But the fact that I could not be myself for either a whole week or for a whole weekend really helped me overcome it all. I have decided to play more masculine women, which helps my gender non-confirmation. It helped me trying and finding out who I am. It helped me accept who I am, that people still like me regardless of my gender identity. It's let me experiment with presentation and try stuff out. It's helped me find friends that actually love and accept me. Until I found my LARP community, I had no idea that I was a word for somebody who was not a boy and not a girl. And now I know that my identity is non-binary, and I am free to safely express my gender identity, and the community I am part of brought immense beautiful freedom to who I am today. It has helped me to see people in fiction, RPG games, etc., who are non-binary, and help me normalize it in a way for me which helped me accepting it. And I think that these answers really clearly show how influential LARP and RPG can be to these people. And the final question. Do you believe that LARP has changed your life? 21.4%, which is 6 people, have answered no, it has not. And 53.6%, which is 15 people, have answered yes, it has. And again, we have 7 answers that I would like to highlight further. LARP made me more confident in who I am. Yes, I'd be a totally different person. It has given me a safe haven. LARP has saved me from an abusive relationship by giving me an emotional support squad who helped me through the tough nights trying to break free, and my beautiful community has been so patient and loving while I recovered over the last 2.5 years. I wouldn't go that far, but it has enriched it in some ways, like finding community. It's a great hobby with a very supportive community. It wasn't a big change, but it was nice to have a support community that wasn't directly trans-related. So as a conclusion, we can definitely say that trans LARPers can be included by creating community and an atmosphere that opens up gender roles and the gender binary, that brings all people together, and that keeps players safe from abuse. And this is possible in all games, not just fantasy, because the big discussion that is actually currently happening in the community is, this is not possible, we are historical reenactment, trans people didn't exist. Which is, thank you for your shaking your head, bullshit, to say it quite bluntly. And this is a discussion that is probably going to go on for a little while, but I think that studies like this one, which was very simple, show what a great influence LARP and positive LARP experience can have on everyone. For those of you that know my presentations, know that now follows the meme of the week, which is this one. Thank you very much.